As I said, Darren, you've had a fascinating senior career in so many different roles. You've been a dean of multiple business schools. You're now a TCU president. You understand industry, you understand academia, higher education, local community. With this background and with this vantage point that you have, how do you see our university's role evolving in the landscape of higher education?
Well, if we're going to evolve in the landscape, we're going to have to do it with great leaders. And I would count you in that number, first of all. So welcome to the TCU family. You've already got off to a really strong start. Most of you don't know this, but we've thrown him a lot of curveballs already. He's hit every single one of them. He's done it with great spirit, great care. And this is a leader that embodies really the four core values of TCU. He's engaged. He has a commitment to community. He is someone that operates with impeccable integrity, and then, of course, has an eye toward excellence. So you may be from Australia. You may have gotten here via Notre Dame and Penn State and UT and all these other places, but you're definitely a Horned Frog. I'm really, really proud to have you in our number. I like it. And you're a good company man with those shoes, by the way. It was really outstanding. Higher ed it's changing. It's changing dramatically. If you just look at the last, not even 10 years, since 2016, 115 universities have gone out of business or been merged into a larger entity. The business model is under attack. Many in the public are questioning the value of higher education for the first time, including the return on investment. And if you're a university with a pretty fulsome tuition rate like Texas Christian University, then it really ups the stakes that we have to work really hard every day to exhibit and demonstrate and articulate the value that we provide. And I would contend that we create one of the strongest return on investments of any university in the country. But we can only do that if we do that in partnership with those beyond the four corners of our campus. There's so much activity happens every day on campus, and it's really easy to get lost in the goodness and the busyness. But we have to be very disciplined. We have to keep an open mind and eye that to really compete and win for our students, for our workforce, for our economy, for our citizenry, that we have to operate an institution of higher education at the intersection of the academy and the community, and specifically for this audience, industry. We sit in what I would contend is an economic miracle in this country, and that's the Fort Worth, Dallas metro. We know that Fort Worth, amongst cities that are over 250,000, it's the fastest growing in the country, number 12 overall, fastest growing major metro. We're opportunity long and talent short. And how lucky are we to have the opportunity as Texas Christian University to step into that workforce need, to listen and design and work backwards from the marketplace with our curriculum, with our student experiences, with our faculty's thought leadership as we partner with companies and other organizations to really tackle the great problems or challenges or opportunities of our time. In many ways, certainly the Neeley School of Business, we have the opportunity to shape the global practice of business. We can do that with our world-class faculty, working with our amazing, ambitious, hardworking students, to really be a go-to source for talent, be part of the solution, and really have, in my opinion, outsized influence in helping shape how Fort Worth, Tarrant County, North Texas, and the region evolve for decades to come.
And that really resonates with me. It reminds me of something that I saw in a presentation last year. I think it was Barbara Snyder. This is the president of the Association of American Universities, the AAU. She presented a statistic that I thought was so out there, I didn't think it was accurate. She said, talked about the reduction in trust that we're seeing in higher education generally. The statistic in a recent Gallup poll is something like about 38% of Americans have a great deal or a lot of trust in higher education. And that's tiny. I mean, that should worry all of us here in the room. Certainly it worries me. And that's dropped even in the last couple of years. I think 4 or 5 years ago, maybe that was 55, 56%. And that even feels low to me. But the fact that that's dropping further, I mean, we don't know why that is. It's a fraught environment that we're in. But one of the things that I feel is one of the causes, at least, is something that President Pullin talked about is, I think increasingly our audiences, our stakeholders feel that we in higher education, we're not addressing those sorts of grand challenges. The sorts of things, the cross-disciplinary boundaries, the cross-college boundaries, the things that involve interaction between academia and practice. And so I'm really pleased to hear that you see that as the solution. Speaking of which, considering we're going through a broad, comprehensive strategic planning process, you're the quarterback. You're probably the head coach of the strategic planning process at the university level. So that's an exciting time. More to come, I think, in the next 6 weeks or 8 weeks or so. We'll see what the direction for TCU is. My focus is that, but it's also at the Neeley level. We have an existing strategic plan. We talk about revenue, research, inclusive excellence, student success, and brand. I talk about within Neeley, us trying to build a world-class integrated student experience, elevate the research reputation, foster collaborations. Based on your experience at the TCU level and the Neeley level, how do you envision the Neeley School aligning these strategic objectives I've talked about with the broader objectives of the university?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just have to be tightly coupled, the subordinate goals of the institution and then the more localized objectives at the college level. The reality of it is, it's just math. 1 in 3 students is a Neeley major at TCU. If you look at the historical growth trends, Neeley is stealing share as a percentage of students, across the campus, and so we have to be attached at the hip at every turn. Obviously, Neeley is one of the more reputational components of TCU, and so as we endeavor to lift the overall academic profile, the perception of the value of the degree, the return on investment, we're going to need to leverage a number of our strengths, and Neeley is one of those. I mean, I think you know this, but maybe not everybody else knows this. Neeley's been ranked in the top 25 undergraduate business programs in the country for the last 3 years. All right, that's not a fluke. That's not a one-time occurrence. That's a pattern and a practice. And you know what excellence looks like because we recruited you from the number 5 undergraduate business school in Notre Dame, right? All right, so we took the number 2 guy out of the number 5 school and made him the number 1 guy at a top 25 school, and I bet he's going to get us to the number 5 in time. At least that's why we're paying you, sir. We're really, really proud of that ability. But it also says something about where we've come from and where we are to attract such a talented leader, right, that sees what we see, that understands the nature and quality of this platform, that understands that this is a place that if you can dream it, you can do it. And, I just want you to know, and I want everybody in this room to know that, your great aspirations can be realized here because not only the president or the chancellor or board of trustees, half of which are here today, thank you guys. I'm talking about the whole business community is cheering you on and cheering on the Neeley School of Business and wants to be a partner in TCU's success just as much as TCU wants to be a partner in our community's success. So we're really, really excited. If you to give a sneak preview, and I won't get out over my skis since half of my bosses are here, the trustees, and this plan isn't approved, but I think I can probably, with some fullness of voice, talk about the emerging pillars and priorities that we'll be focusing on. Here's the market reality for TCU. We have been able to demonstrate return on investment. In fact, the Neeley School, almost a perfect placement rate. I think it's like 98% placement rate. Top 10 starting salary out of undergrad of any business school in the country. Number 9, number 1 in Texas, right? There's no Texas business school degree at the undergraduate level that the market is clearing at a higher price point than the Neeley degree, which is really, really powerful. The 8 schools ahead of Neeley in salary are all on the coasts. And these rankings are not cost of living adjusted, right? So the ROI is clear and present for a Neeley degree. When you have programs like that, and there are many others across the campus, you create market demand. And this year we had 22,000+ applications for only 2,400 first-year spots at TCU, which is remarkable. And at some level, that's a good thing, right? We can be very picky and selective and, continue to upgrade the academic qualifications of our student body. But on another hand, we're leaving a lot of talent, a lot of capable talent on the shelf. And one of the things that's different about my job than your job that I had to learn is that somehow or another, disappointed prospective students and even more disappointed parents find their way to my office or into my voicemail and are very, very disappointed. And, it's a hard conversation to have with a great family, a TCU family. Maybe they have 3 children and the first 2 got in 5 years ago. And the bar has been raised so much because of the demand and because of the ascension of the institution that 3rd child isn't going to make it. I think that's wrong. That's hard for me to stomach, that a really great TCU family with a really talented student who could be very successful in our increasingly rigorous curriculum is going to be left on the sidelines and have to go to Brand X University. And so we have to be thoughtful about that. On the other side of what we do, another thing about my job, a little bit on your job too, is that I keep hearing from employers that they're thirsting for the opportunity to hire Horned Frogs. They understand the quality of our graduates. They understand their aspirations, their capabilities. Our graduates emerge without a sense of entitlement. They're ready to roll up their sleeves and work. And so I get all these calls for more and more and more. And so one of the first pillars, and it shouldn't be surprising, is we're kind of the market maker between those two forces. And so we're going to be committed to student-centered growth. Right? The very first word, by the way, in the strategic plan will be student. All right. So no matter how big we get, right, and we've grown significantly, we'll continue to grow prudently and with thought and care. We'll never get away from being student-centered. As we grow, we'll continue to make the investments in world-class faculty and staff to support their success, to keep that very connected and real experience. You know, we're a university that's not in the transaction game. There are a lot of universities that trade tuition and fees for credit hours and diplomas. That's transactional to me. We're in the transformational business, right? We're not just creating college graduates. We're creating leaders that are ready for society, that are prepared to serve society, right? That it's not just about getting their first job, right? It's about getting their last job, because their last job is where they have the opportunity to have the widest aperture for impact, where they're making, say in a business context, the decisions, you know, what products and services to offer that benefit humanity, right? What the social responsibility of the enterprise is to the communities that they serve, right? Creating jobs that support strong families, and the strong families that are essential to any community and its ability to flourish. Right? Those are the type of leaders that we're attracting and propelling and putting into society, certainly right here in Fort Worth and beyond. And we have an opportunity to do that with a little bit more scale, but without losing an ounce of the care that we put into that transformation. So I'm really, really excited about that pillar. The next one is that I think that we're at a point, and you know this, and the Neeley School has embodied this, I think, along with other components of the institution. But we're at a point where that student-centered growth will give us the degrees of freedom to invest deeply in the academic profile of the institution. And part of that's going to involve enhanced emphasis on creative activity, research, scholarship, attracting the best faculty in the world to teach our students, the kind of faculty that generate insights, in this case, business insights, that can be brought into the classroom so that our students are educated with the latest thinking, the cutting edge tools, technologies, and techniques to be able to add value day one upon graduation. Our type of faculty that will work arm in arm with our students to conduct independent research projects, which if you think about research, it's exactly the process of conducting research is very similar to the exact set of skills we're hearing from the private sector they want. Things like innovation, creativity, the ability to ask questions, the ability to answer questions, to work with data, to clean data, to analyze data, to understand the implications of data, to reduce that to written form, to be logical, to be persuasive, to think critically, and motivate people to go with you. That's what research is. And that's what we hear loud and clear from our top employers. They want an agile learner that can have those types of skill sets and mindsets necessary to add value following their education. So we're very, very excited about that. That's going to be a big lift. That's going to require new faculty, additional faculty. That's going to require an upgrade of some of our existing research facilities, our laboratories, our performance halls. It may involve new buildings where we can conduct research. Certainly, it'll require additional investment in the Neeley School of Business, which already has an outstanding reputation. Part of the reason we're ranked so high is because of the respect of our peers, of our current faculty and their productivity. And we need to take some of those lessons learned and scale that across the enterprise, which I'm really, really excited about. That'll put TCU in a whole other stratosphere as it pertains to how we're viewed nationally as one of the great institutions in the country. The third one is something that most universities wouldn't be courageous enough to say, but it's who we are, and we are going to lean into it. And that our third strategic pillar is athletics. And somebody told me when we were talking about making athletics one of the 4 priorities of the institution that, you might lose your provost over it, right? Because sometimes athletics gets a bad rap in the academic snobbery of brand X, university. The reality of it is that athletics really puts TCU on the map in a scaled way. We've quantified it, but it's hard to overstate the impact of success on and off the field for our student athletes, whether it's the run to the national championship, our success in the College World Series, March Madness, 2 national championships last year, tennis and men's tennis, women's rifle, and on and on and on. And that really has made TCU at some level a household name nationally. It has driven a lot of the interest in students looking for a small school experience with big time sports and amenities, all set against the backdrop of a really cool town to go to college in, which is Fort Worth. Very, very few universities, if you think about it, have all 3 of those. And athletics is changing. It's dynamic. Whether it's NIL or the transfer portal or antitrust lawsuits that may or may not settle, private equity coming into the space. It's like riding a Bronco, and you just got to hold on. And so if we're not focused on it, then we could get left out. And we've been left out before. We know what that feels like, and our memory is long here. All right, so we're going to do everything we can to elevate that to a forward priority for the future of the institution. I'm really, really excited about that. As uncertain as it is, we are on it, and we are focused on it every day. And then the last one really speaks to, I think, this room, and that's community engagement. We've always been active in the community, and we do good things organically. Many of you in the room have helped us do those good things organically, but we've never consciously elevated that to one of the top pillars of the institution. We've never made the investments to up our sophistication in how we track and monitor and invest and contribute to the community, and also how that allows us to broaden our impact. Again, we have one of the best towns to run a university in. It's a mutable asset of TCU's that we get to conduct our operations in Fort Worth, Texas. The town-gown relationship. The mayor's here, right? We've got members of the council here. We're all for each other, right? And if we work together, then I think that we can make this great place even greater, and not just TCU, but Fort Worth and this part of the country. And if we make this part of the country greater, then that strengthens America's competitiveness as a whole. And I think that we all win. So it's a beautiful opportunity for us to think strategically, to think from a position of strength. I know we have a bunch of trustees in here, so thank you for having the courage to understand that the right time to innovate is when you don't have to. Right? Because you could look around, right? Everything's going great. Record enrollments, amazing students, job placement, strong economy, big brand. Why would we do anything different? All right, but to have the courage to say now is the time to really think about what's changing in higher ed, what's changing in North Texas, right? And how might we be even a bigger solution, to both of those things, is very empowering, exciting to me. We don't have to wait for a crisis or a financial, crisis or sense of urgency. We can do the right things on mission by and for always our student. And that's what the TCU strategic plan is going to be all about.
That's outstanding. Yeah, agreed. As everybody has seen, what a truly inspiring vision. I think we all see why President Pullin was described as an empowering leader. Before I move on to a couple of questions about the interactions with the local community here, I'd like to remind those who'd like to submit their own questions, please write those down. You should have pen and paper at the table. Students will be coming around to collect those. At the end of the conversation, we'll have time for a couple of questions from the audience. So moving to that, I was thinking about what you said about potentially losing a provost. Fortunately, our provost is a world-class scholar, but he's also an athlete, as you all know, and so he's not going anywhere. He may have to exercise a little more to fit the vision, but we're I think we're good there. To your point about the high rankings, we're very fortunate in the Neeley School to be ranked in the top 25 a number of years. If you dig into the rankings, I think it's even more interesting, as I did when I was interviewing here. And there's areas that we have opportunities for growth. I mean, we're not as high as we need to be for having across the board all students being engaged in a signature experience. But there are areas that we're doing very well. So elements of the Poets and Quants undergrad business ranking, we were ranked 25 overall, but there are some sub-questions there and a couple of questions along the lines of, are you happy you took this program? Would you recommend this program to others? And for those, we were actually second in the nation. So I think our students truly believe that they're gaining a good experience, a positive experience here, which I think is very much in line with the comments that President Pullin's making. I think this success, it gives us many opportunities, but I think it also comes with responsibilities. And the responsibility then, I think, is going beyond the academy. So to that question, how do you envision TCU integrating more deeply with our local community here? What initiatives can we undertake to develop, to explore mutually beneficial partnerships with businesses and community organizations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we have, the makings of the infrastructure to really be symbiotic with the private sector. I think that Neeley School, I think there's more to do, but I think there's been a lot of momentum in recent years. I mean, certainly we have the Neeley Board of Advisors. We have a number of members here that give us advice and counsel. I love the fact that our students raised their hand a couple of years ago and said we would like to have a specific business school mentoring program, and over 100 students self-organized and came to the dean at the time and said, we would like to do this, and will you help us do that? And now that is student vision, student run, student led, and a number of you are probably participating in the Neeley Mentor Program. At a personal level, and I know you will be doing a lot of this as well, I'm starting to spend more of my time out of my office and in the community, whether that's to focus on matters that speak directly to economic development for Fort Worth and beyond. I keep filling the mayor's calendar. I know she's sick of me just beating a path to her door, but we have really important work to do together, and so I appreciate your partnership and open-mindedness to say, wow, how might a university really be a catalyst for economic growth and diversification and positive lasting change in one of the most dynamic communities in the country, right? Those are the conversations that we're having. The other thing that we need to continue to do, and I'm really proud of TCU, I think we do a pretty good job of it, but we have to remind ourselves, because this is like a muscle memory a little bit, we have to be really good listeners. We're all trained as professors, right? We profess, we know, we say, right? But we really are more powerful when we listen, when we have that courage as leaders to listen and gather data and understand perspectives and diverse views of others. That allows us, when we do have to make decisions or launch an initiative or make a capital investment, to do it with the best right information and the right context against which any course of action can be decided. So in my estimation, again, we live in Fort Worth, Texas. It's a great business community, and we would be foolish not to take advantage of the wisdom that emanates around us.
I think it's a great answer. When I look at how our alumni are involved, it really is inspiring. One of the best programs that I've seen since coming here is the one that President Pullin talked about, the mentorship program. For those of you looking for a little bit of activity, you want to get a bit involved, let us know. So every year we have 80 sophomores, and each of them has one-on-one mentorship with a business leader, usually an alum, certainly somebody with TCU links, and it makes an enormous difference to our students. In the interest of time, I'd like to move on a little bit to the topic of growth. You touched on this with your remarks earlier. We are seeing a lot of growth. You may have seen for this year, the Neeley School has expanded 6%. We're up to about 3,410, I think, undergraduate students. We have about 435 graduate students, so that's almost 4,000. That percentage, that represents almost a third of TCU undergraduate students, and it represents almost a quarter of TCU graduate students. That's the highest by quite a distance for all of the colleges. Growth is exciting. Growth brings opportunities. Growth also brings challenges sometimes. Could I ask you to talk a little bit about how you see the benefits for students of this growth, such as expanding networking events, maybe internship programs, real-world business experiences? When people say to you, "Oh, no, I'm a bit worried. Everything Neeley's growing too fast. TCU's growing too fast," what do you say back to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I don't know that it's too fast. It's only too fast if we don't capitalize that growth.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to match. You have to. I mean, the university. Right. We have $1 billion budget. Right. So it's not a business, but it's a business. Right. It's a complicated enterprise. But what's not complicated is having the discipline to make capital allocation decisions that are consistent with where the demand for certain components of your product are. And there's a tremendous amount of demand for business education, and not just from business majors, by the way. Right? The Neeley School, despite its growth, understands its role as not just some balkanized silo or some beautiful island that just sits off to the side in and of itself, but the opportunity to play not like a vertical, but more of a horizontal role that unlocks downstream impact across the totality of the university. Many Neeley programs are open to non-business majors, right? There's a business minor, there's an entrepreneurship minor, there's a world-class sales center that's open to all students, and on and on and on. So there's the Neeley NIL program where we're teaching business skills to all of our 500 plus student athletes, right? Many, many other examples. And so what I'm really proud of is, yes, there has been a lot of growth. And yes, particularly in recent times, I think the university is catching up to that, making stronger capital allocation decisions consistent with matching, our financial degrees of freedom with where the demand is. And that's a process, right? It's a large organization that doesn't just happen overnight, but it is happening. But what I'm really proud of is the fact that Neeley understands it can be, you talked about in your intro, being a part of something bigger than itself. I actually think the organization that is the Neeley School of Business philosophically believes that and understands that it can really lift the entirety of Texas Christian University by opening the doors to all of our students and opening the doors to our communities, including the business community.
Very much. I'm glad you mentioned the minors that we're offering. One of the things I was very excited to see is just how many students we have involved in a minor. We always think about our majors, which are important, but these minors are meaningful additions to students' experiences. The general business minor, this is something that's not available to Neeley. You take this if you're outside Neeley. As of today, we have over 600 students that are registered in this, 600 non-Neeley students that are registered. We also have other minors that are available to non-Neeley students. I think that's wonderful. I would like us to be expanding that more. I think that gives us opportunity to support the rest of the university in new ways. Just one more question, and then we'll take a couple from the audience. If we do think about this growth, you talked about some of the many benefits that provides for our students. Those are really compelling. What benefits do you see of this growth for the local community, for the businesses that we engage with, the organizations outside academia?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the most simple level, I think that it allows TCU to be a bigger part of the workforce solution. One of my kind of secret goals that I don't talk too much about is, what can TCU do? And the Neeley School will have a lot to say about this, to make Fort Worth really the place to be if you're starting or growing, or in some cases moving a company, to the best town to live in. I feel like we have the opportunity to attract companies that are bringing more white collar jobs to our community. If you look at sort of our tax base, we're probably shifted a little bit and balanced more toward sort of a residential, economic development versus commercial. And I think that we have such a wonderful community. There's no reason why the great companies of the world wouldn't want to come to Fort Worth. And if we can scale, it's what growth is, right? If we can scale a little bit, and if what we're hearing from our existing employers is that we love what you're doing, we just need more of it, then I think our voice, whether it's a card like this and these amazing impact stats and the jobs created, I think our voice can help improve the narrative on why Fort Worth, why now, and part of that needs to be because of TCU.
Absolutely. Before we go into the audience questions, is there anything else that we haven't covered today you'd like to share?
I want to ask the first question. Okay, you've been here a couple months, 3 months. Okay.
Here we go.
Tell me about it. What are you thinking about? I know you're operating on some, the last guy's old strategic agenda, whatever. But how are you gonna mix it up? What's on your mind?
Thank you for asking, President Dan. It's been a really intense and really enjoyable last couple of months. I started July 1, so I'm here 2.5 months. Obviously, I know everything about TCU and about Neeley. I've got it all covered. People refer to it as drinking from a fire hose. It completely feels like that. It's possible I'm getting slightly better at drinking. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's intense. One of the very best things has been meeting. What I was thinking actually as I was standing up there on the podium, because as I was coming in, I thought, I'm going to meet a lot of new people today, which is great. But as I was looking out, I was really impressed at how many people in here I've already had the opportunity to meet. And that's a true credit to all of you. It isn't me that's gone looking. You guys have provided opportunities for me to meet with you. And that to me is a true hallmark of the TCU community. It really is, it's a welcoming, belonging, high culture, high identity place. I've just spent a few years at Notre Dame. If you know anybody from Notre Dame, you'll know that you find that out very fast because they tell you, whether you ask or not. It isn't like that here, but the identity, the place that TCU holds in people's their lives, their identities, who they are, is really central, and I see that very much. And that's just got reinforced. That started on day one, and that's got stronger and stronger. I am dealing with an existing strategic plan, which I think is great. I'm waiting with bated breath to see what comes from the pillars, because then we will, at Neeley, we'll cascade down. One of the things that I have talked about a bit, and I think does fit in with what I believe will happen in the strategic plan, that I think we have the opportunity to do. The first I would say is normalize. We have grown a lot in TCU and in Neeley the last few years, and I think our responsibility is to normalize the resource base there. We have more students, we have more programs. Every one of these are exciting world-class programs, but it's our responsibility to make sure that we're fully staffing those to the extent that we need to do. So we're in hiring mode at the moment. We've been hiring staff, we're hiring faculty. We're going to be doing more and more of that. Thank you, appreciate it. Good handwriting, I like that. So the normalize is important, but one area that I think we really have opportunities, and not sure precisely how this is going to fit in with the plan, but we're going to find a way. I think we have the opportunity to democratize a little bit more. Many of you know some of the outstanding programs that we have here. I think about the Neeley Fellows, Neeley Leadership Program. I think about the EIF program, the TIP program. I'm not sure what proportion of our students do that, but let's say this year we have an entering class of 835. I don't know, maybe 200 of those will have opportunities to be in some of these programs. Maybe there are some students that don't want to be in these programs. They're enjoying life, but there's a group in the middle that I think we have the opportunity to expand some of this programming to. I think about democratizing the experience. The Neeley Leadership Program, every year we have 30 students in there, 32 students. It's a fantastic program, and it's intense, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort. And some students, they don't have time in their lives for all of this, but I think we have the opportunity to pass on some of that experience. One of the things I'm really excited about is that in development now, we're hoping to be able to launch pretty soon, is a leadership minor. I would like as many students as possible in Neeley to be able to take that minor. Some of the experiences that we see, led by Mary Albeen, starts with leadership of self, moving all the way to leadership of organizations. I think we have an opportunity in Neeley to expand that programming. It's one of the things that we need to be conscious of as we grow. I support completely what you're saying about the growth. I think that's the path that we have here, and it's exciting. There's reasons why we want to be doing this. But as we're doing this, we need to make sure that we continue to offer these world-class experiences to as many of our students as possible. So that's something that really has resonated with me. I've thought about a lot. There's other things which you touched on, raising the research reputation. You heard it here first. We're exploring what I think is the most meaningful academic program that we can offer in a research setting, which is a PhD program. The Neeley School has been operating for 140 years, and we've never had a PhD program. And there have been good reasons for that. No complaints about why we're here. But we're at the point now where we need to be looking at this seriously. The longer we go without that, the more we're riding on the coattails of the field. And I think it's time for us to provide our PhD graduates to go out into the world and to become the professors of the future. That's a big thing. That's complicated. So this year, we're doing some exploration to see where that could happen, what that would look like, what the resource implications are. But I feel optimistic that that's something that in the not too distant future that we'll be able to implement. I'll wrap up there. If you're comfortable with a couple of questions from the audience, great. So the first one here is, what are some examples of local partnerships that you think are going well?
Let's see. I could probably just look at people in this room and speak to it. You know, I know Bill Shattuck's here. The investment he's been making in the Shattuck Create Seed Fund allows us to be the first capital, non-dilutive, by the way, first capital in on our students' startup companies. I think we started last year. I see Rodney D'Souza back there. I think 41 companies came out of TCU last year, you know, buying through our students, working with faculty, many of which were supported by that seed fund. See Luther King right here. You know, for the last 20 plus years, his internship program has really set the standard on how we prepare students for success beyond the classroom, right? Taking the core values that are discovered through our curriculum and then applying them and putting them into practice. And if you see the alumni, not just from TCU Neeley, but the alumni from that internship program and where they've gone, many of them are actually in this room or running their own funds now. It's just really, really remarkable. You know, the compounding returns of a multi-decadal investment in talent through that organization. You mentioned the leadership program that's named after BNSF. I think about Katie Farmer, one of my bosses, the CEO of BNSF, and the leaders that have come through that program. And they've gone on to work for not only BNSF, but any of the other great companies, you know, certainly here in Fort Worth and beyond. On and on and on. I see Rayford High right there, KPMG, one of our strongest employers. I see Hadley Warner, the platinum sponsor of this event, and all of the amazing interns and full-time hires that go through the Frost family of companies. I mean, just look around. It's working, and it's working because of you.
You're a really successful leader and a really inspiring leader. This question here, I think, will tell us a little bit more, maybe pull back the curtain a little bit. Can you tell us about how you view your leadership style?
Yeah, it's stuff that it's changed, and there's some principles that I think I've been consistent with, but in the last year and a half, it's had to change. The nature of this job is a little bit different than jobs I've had before. So I'll start with the foundations, and then I'll go with, you know, sort of the update. At my core, I believe leaders have to be courageous souls, and I think they have to have courage in 3 dimensions. One of which we actually just talked about. You have to the best leaders, in my opinion, or at least what's worked for me, is you have to have the courage to listen. Right? Again, not profess. Not decide, not have to, my business card says X, and therefore I have to be the smartest person in the room, and I have to have all the answers. Now, forget that, right? Have the courage to listen and get the diverse viewpoints and context before you get into content. Then you have to have the courage to actually not be paralyzed by data. You have to have the courage to decide and take action, right? And be comfortable with whatever criticism on either end of that action. But then the best leaders, I think, have a third type of courage, and it's hard. You have to have a lot of discipline, and it takes time, particularly when you want to get on to the next thing, right? You've listened, you've decided, now what's the next thing on the to-do list? But you really do, if the best leaders, I think, have to take the time to have the courage to explain, right? To play back to the organization the rationale for the decision. Like, we might have chosen to go west and some other people wanted us to go east, but at least we validated their voice and their ability to contribute to the dialogue by explaining why we're going west and not east. Because we want those people back in the boat the next time we have a big decision to make, right? Because their perspective might be the winning one. And if we ostracize them and they stay on the sidelines, we don't get the benefit of their diverse viewpoint. right, to get to the best, right, risk-adjusted answer. So I think consistently and historically, I've tried to focus on having the courage to listen, the courage to act, and the courage to explain. And that's been a winning formula for me. The last couple of years since I've been doing this job, I've had to really focus on building and trusting the right team. We have an amazing cabinet. Just so blessed. And a lot of that has to do with Chancellor Bashini and his longevity and his very human-centered approach to leadership. And we've had some new faces on the cabinet, which I'm very excited about. But that leadership team is dynamic. And so I don't have time anymore to problem solve really or go deep on something. And I love to do that. And it's very tempting for me to do that. But I do have the time to put the right people in the right spots and trust them and engender trust in me, such that when there's an issue or an opportunity, I might see it or perceive it, I might have a hypothesis, but I have to turn it over very, very quickly to the right cabinet member who I have to trust that they'll go do the data gathering. They'll work on, the cultural implications. They'll get to the best right answer for TCU because they understand our mission, our vision, our core values, and that they will make every decision in accordance with those core values, which invariably involves what's the right thing for our students. So I can't go deep anymore. Sometimes I get really tempted, and it messes my schedule up. So I have to step back and just really trust the people that are in the right leadership positions.
I think that's amazing. Courage, subsidiarity, empowerment. I think those are great takeaways for all of us in leadership style. Well, we've come to the end of today. I want to sincerely thank President Daniel Pullin for joining us, sharing with us his experience, his wisdom, and his energy. As I said at the start, one of your unnamed colleagues referred to you as a force of nature, and that was all positive. It's not one of those typhoon forces of nature. It was a good thing, and we see why Neeley is on the path that it is, and certainly why TCU as an institution is, and all of us here are honored that you're leading us. So thank you so much. Please.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you again for getting up very early this morning and being here with us. If I get any influence on the future Tandy Executive Speaker Series, it's possible they'll start a little later, but I may not have that influence. So we may see you early. I very much hope that we can see you next time, which will be in November, and we're very proud to announce that the special guest will be the CEO of American Airlines, Robert Isom. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for that. So have a great day. Wonderful to see you here. Looking forward to interact later through the months and the years to come. And as I hear you say a lot around here, go Frogs.
Go Frogs.